in Ursula K. Leguin's sixth Earthsea novel, one of the crises or challenges that is posed early on in the work, one of several different ones that are coming before the main characters, is that posed by the dragons of Earthsea, who are now engaging in seemingly aggressive activity. They are moving eastward. They've been confined mainly to the westernmost islands, and now they are invading even Havnor. So this is a significant problem and challenge for the characters. We get introduced to this after the other two crises, that of Alder's dreams and of the Kargish princess. But this is the one that brought Leguin to summon Theru and Tenar to Havnor to get their counsel. And this is one that is actually going to be fairly understandable and resolvable early on. It's going to also lead to some resolution of the others. And first they have to figure out, well, what's actually going on? So we should start at the start. Alder is talking with Leguin, the king, and he says, will you tell Alder of this matter, Tosla? Tosla is one of the courtiers and servants of the king. And so he says, the matter is dragons in the west reach for some years now. They've come to farms and villages, flying low, seizing the roofs of houses with their talons, shaking them, terrifying the people. In the torn gates, they've come twice now at harvest time and set the fields burning with their breath, and set burnt haystacks and set the thatch of houses afire. They haven't struck at people, but people have died in the fires. They haven't attacked the houses of the lords of that island, seeking after treasure the way they did in the dark years, but only the villages and the fields. The same word came from a merchantman who'd been southwest as far as Simley trading for grain. Dragons had come and burnt the crop just as they were harvesting. Then last winter in Semel, 2 dragons settled on the summit of the volcano Mount Ondaden. And he goes on and he says, the wizard Sepal of Palm tells me the mountain was the most sacred place to the dragons, where they came to drink fire from the earth in ancient days. Tosla says, well, they're back. They come down harrying the herds and flocks that are the wealth of the people there, not hurting the beasts, but frightening them. So they break loose and run wild. The people say they're young dragons, black and thin, without much fire. And in Palm, there are dragons now living in the mountains of the north part of the island, wild country without farms. Hunters have been driven out by the dragons. No one goes near the mountains now. So this is a significant issue, right? The dragons are not directly attacking humans, but they're going after places where the humans are vulnerable. They're scaring off their livestock. They're burning their thatch. They're burning up the crops. And so they're hurting the people in a certain way out of the area. And so this requires some sort of explanation. What is actually going on here? Why are dragons moving in on us? Why are they resettling in the central parts of Earthsea, no longer just in the reaches, the far-out island chains, but even in the main islands? To go to Palm is to go to a rather important island. And we get some insight into this a little bit later when Tehanu has a conversation with a dragon whose name later on is revealed as Amaud, the brother of Orm Irian, who we're going to encounter more. And so when Tehanu talks with him, some of the mages can follow some of the conversation, but they say, what passed between you? And then she speaks slowly, and she says, I asked, why are you burning the king's island? And he, the dragon, said, it is time we have our own lands again. And I said, did the eldest bid you to take them with fire? Then he said that the eldest Kalesian had gone with Orm Irian beyond the west to fly on the other wind. And he said, the young dragons who remained here on the winds of the world say men are oath-breakers who stole the dragon's lands. They tell one another Kalesian will never return and they will wait no longer, but will drive men out of all the western lands. But lately Orm Irian has returned and is on Palm, he said, and I told him to ask her to come, and he said she would come to Kalessian's daughter. So several important things going on here, right? First off, we've got an explanation for why there's no leadership here. Kalessian's gone. The eldest of the dragons has gone to fly on the other wind. And we're going to find out from Orm Irian in just a bit exactly what transpired before he did that. Then we also discover that the younger dragons, in the absence of Kalessian, are saying, human beings are oath breakers. We need to push them out of here. We need to take a more aggressive stance towards them. And then finally we find out that Irian is back and will come to parley. And the king actually tells his people, this is a very nice phrase, before she shows up, he says, listen, people of Havnor, the woman of Gaunt, that is, Theru or Tehanu, has spoken for us with a chief among the dragons. They have pledged a truce. One of them will come to us. A dragon will come here to the city of Havnor, not to destroy, but to parley. The time has come when men and dragons must meet and talk. So I tell you, when the dragon comes, do not fear it, do not fight it, do not flee it, but welcome it in the sign of peace. Greet it as you would greet a great lord. Come in peace from afar, and have no fear. So that's quite important. And then Irian does show up as a pretty scary dragon. And this is the main important part of this parley. We find out what actually took place from somebody who was there. And she tells a story. She says, when Orm Embar died on Celador, destroying the mortal body of the wizard Cobb, Kalessian came from beyond the west and brought the king and the great mage to Roke. Then returning to the Dragon's Run, the eldest called the people of the west, whose speech had been taken from them by Cobb and who were still bewildered. Kalessian said to them, you let evil turn you into evil. You have been mad. You are sane again, but so long as the winds blow from the east, you can never be what you were, free of both good and evil. Something different, something beyond good and evil, perhaps, right? So Kalessian says, long ago we dragon people, we chose freedom. Men chose the yoke of good and evil. We chose fire and the wind. They chose water and the earth. We chose the west and they the east. And then Kalessian goes on and he says, among us, some of us envy them their wealth, and always among them some envy us our liberty. So it was that evil came into us and will come into us again until we choose again and forever to be free. Soon I am going beyond the west to fly on the other wind. I will lead you there or wait for you if you will come. Then, according to Irian, some of the dragons said to Kalessian, men in their envy of us long ago stole half our realm from beyond the west from us and made walls of spells to keep us out of it. So now let us drive them to the farthest east and take back the islands. Men and dragons cannot share the wind. And Kalessian says, once we were one people. And in sign of that, in every generation of men, one or two are born who are dragons also. And he goes on and says, these who are living now are the messengers, the bringers of choice. There will be no more such born to us or to them, for the balance is changing. You have to decide. And he says, choose. And he gives them three choices here. And the dragons, notice, are actually going to be rejecting these three choices in just a moment. So what are the three choices? Fly with me on the other wind. Go beyond the west. Join what we know to be the other dragon folk who do fly beyond the west, or take on the yoke of good and evil. It's here. You've already been evil. You can't be innocent beasts anymore, or you will dwindle and become dumb beasts, like what Cobb had started to make you into. Those are your three choices, so choose wisely. And what do we find out happens? So he says, he also tells them too, the last to make these choices is going to be Tehanu. After her, there's no choosing. There will be no way west. And so after some years had passed, Kalessian flew beyond the west. Some followed, some did not. When I came to join my people, I followed Kalessian, but I go there and back. And so what do we find out? Irian herself is flying back and forth. She's made kind of a different choice that places her in a privileged position as far as information goes. She also mentions that she and Amod, her brother, seek to free the dragons of the yoke. Here we go. Amod, like me, enacts the will of Kalessian, seeking to free my people from the yoke you wear, you human beings. If he and I and the children of Kalessian can prevent harm to our people and ours, we will do so. So they're acting as kind of a moderating force. What do the other dragons want to do? Well, she tells us the disposition of my people is irate and jealous. They want to take back this land from you. They view you as oath breakers, human beings. They're hostile towards you. They hate you, she says. Here we go. They did not try to kill the islanders because they remembered being mad when dragon killed dragon. They hate you but will not kill you unless you try to kill them. But they are invading the West, or taking back the West in their own point of view. And what do these dragons say? They stole half our realm. Now we will take all the west of their realm and drive them out of it. Why? So they cannot bring their good and evil to us anymore. We will not put our necks into their yoke. So she's talking about, in some respect, rejecting Kalessian's you have to choose and saying, we will stay here, we will push them out, we will not become dumb beasts, we also will not go on the other wind, and we will reject the yoke of good and evil that is being placed upon us. Another really key point for understanding the motivation of the dragons is this question about fear. And the king says, you honor us with your truth speaking. I beg you to tell me, daughter of Kalessian, what is it you say the dragons fear? I thought they feared nothing in the world or out of it. And she says, we fear your spells of immortality. And what is that? So the Onyx, the wizard, says, we don't make any spells of immortality. Only the wizard Cobb sought to make himself immortal, perverting our art to do so. And he goes on, he says, our archmage, with my lord the king and with the aid of Orm Embar, destroyed Cobb and the evil he'd done. And the archmage gave up all his power to heal the world, restoring the equilibrium. Irian then says, and this is going back to the story that's in the 5th Earthsea book, right? Her story. The wizard I destroyed, the summoner of Rogue, Thorian, what was it that he sought? So it's not just Cobb. The balance has not been restored. Human beings, wizards, are in fact seeking immortality, and they'll continue to do so. And the dragons can't trust the human beings not to do that. And there's, as we're going to find out, there's a greater concern that has to do with the dry land and the wall of stones as well. So this tells us what the dragons are actually up to, coming out of the mouth of one of the dragons, Orm Irian.